I do think it helps us to improve how we work, how we think, how productive we are, how profitable companies are. But I do see, and hear the conversation around jobs being eliminated. Should the focus be the elimination of jobs or the evolution of jobs?
For me, one of the things someone said, and I did not say this, but it stuck with me. They said, AI is not going to take your job. Those who know AI will take your job. Mm-hmm. And so when we're talking about AI and the preparing to pivot, we have to make sure that we are in the rooms to prepare to pivot, to really hone down on what's happening in our particular industry.
Let's be honest. When it comes to a thriving career, we're all still figuring it out. Welcome to the Still at Work podcast. On this show, we take questions about navigating the workplace and work them out together. I'm Kim Taylor, head of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Coursera, and I'm your host. Let's get to work. We spend, on average, a third of our life at work, roughly 90,000 hours over the course of a lifetime. And our listeners want to know what's coming next. We all do. How will work change, and how will that change our lives? Today's question is, what are the emerging trends in the workplace, and how do we prepare ourselves for the future of work? One trend is for certain, AI. I've asked Amanda Clark, Coursera Board Member and WellBiz CEO, to join us for this episode. If you haven't already listened to my conversation with Amanda about change, please go check it out when you're finished listening here. Also, joining us to talk all things AI is Angel Bush, founder and CEO of Black Women in Artificial Intelligence. Angel is clear that AI is going to play a major role in the workplaces of the future, and she wants to make sure we're all equally represented in that future.
This was in 2019. I was attempting to build a robot, and that robot was going to bring me hot cocoa. I know, it's strange, but hot cocoa. And so this was in 2019, and I started doing some research in YouTube University and started trying to figure out how to build this robot. And along the way, I started hearing more and more about artificial intelligence. And, they kept saying, it's the fourth industrial revolution. And so that led me to attend an event. And when I looked around, I didn't see a full reflection of myself. And that event, the topic was artificial intelligence. And so throughout the day, of course, everyone is saying it's the fourth industrial revolution. And, in those moments, I said to myself, well, surely you can't have a revolution without Black women. And so that was the genesis of Black Women in Artificial Intelligence. And again, full disclosure, I never made the robot.
Nice. Such an inspiring story. And I feel like you should not lose sight of that original vision. We all need a robot to bring us hot cocoa. So I would pay for that. Would you say that with the emergence of AI, and I have been having these conversations with friends and peers, for the past year, and I feel optimistic about AI. I do think it helps us to improve how we work, how we think, how productive we are, how profitable companies are. I do see, and hear the conversation around jobs being eliminated. But my question is, should the focus be the elimination of jobs or the evolution of jobs?
For me, one of the things someone said, and I did not say this, but it stuck with me. They said, AI is not going to take your job. Those who know AI will take your job. And so when we're talking about AI and the preparing to pivot, we have to make sure that we are in the rooms to prepare to pivot. And what I mean by that is, are we going to conferences? Are we speaking to individuals such as yourselves to really hone down on what's happening in our particular industry so that we can prepare to pivot? Because your job is going to pivot, whether you work at a bank, whether you work at a restaurant, what have you, your job is going to pivot and the perspective has to pivot. We have a partnership with Capital One. And one of the first things they said to me is, well, Angel, we're not a bank. And I was thinking, surely you are a bank, but okay. And they said, no, we're a tech company doing banking. And I said, oh, got it. I love it. It's the changing of the perspective of who you are as a person.
AI is undoubtedly a huge trend, but you didn't need us to tell you that. I asked Angel if there's anything we should be looking out for within the AI trend.
We have to look at automation. Automation is an emerging trend in every aspect, whether it's going to the grocery store and now the person is no longer checking you out. You have to do the self-checkout. Whether it's looking within the context of your organization and figuring out what they're trying to automate. You may have a job that you may not know the IT people are trying to automate and figure out how it can be more efficient and effective. And so we have to be sure to look within the construct of our own position and our own careers and figure out how it's being automated.
I would give a perspective, even as a CEO, and I'm trying to optimize business models and make things, I run basically multiple franchise businesses, and I'm trying to make the businesses more profitable for my franchisees. And that is one of the things that I try to look at constantly is, okay, where can I take labor out and where can I automate things? And it's very true. What jobs can be automated so I can improve the profitability of this business model to make, again, these franchisees more profitable, which sometimes on the surface it can sound terrible. I would be taking jobs away from people, but in some ways what I'm trying to do is make, a business model survive for an individual owner. But I will tell you, as a CEO, that's something that I'm thinking about, almost every day.
Yeah, those are some very difficult conversations also. Because I understand your perspective in that, because it's like, are we taking jobs away or are we changing the position that the person currently has? And then what value does that person bring? And we have to make sure that they're aware that they bring value outside of AI, because the personal touch can never be erased.
So when thinking about, jobs evolving and AI being at the forefront of that, what would you recommend for the everyday person who's in their job? How can they prepare? What things should they be aware of? What things should they consider about their own jobs? And how can we all educate ourselves? I'm at Coursera, so I know how. But how can we all educate ourselves to understand how to incorporate this technology into our way of working?
I think it starts with being curious. I think that tends to be an issue for people who get left behind, is that they're not curious, right? So if you start with a basic curiosity, I think you're going to be ahead of the game. So if you see an emerging trend, be curious about it and seek the resources to just try and understand it. And again, I am no tech expert. I just am around people who are. But, when ChatGPT came out, I was just curious about it. So I just wanted to learn and experiment with it. And now, it's actually very useful for me. I use it for board decks when I have to synthesize information. Now I'm pretty good at it, and my organization uses it, and it saves time. So, yeah, that's kind of my advice.
Yeah, I think that curiosity is key. Also, same. The moment I heard about ChatGPT and then that it was available for the public to use, I jumped in there because I was curious. And if we lean into our curiosity, if we don't let our fear of the unknown keep us out of the room, there are way too many things that are already keeping us out of the room. So we can't let that fear of the unknown sort of be one of those things. I think that's something that we definitely have to lean into. And again, speaking for myself, it has increased my output exponentially. And I am no tech expert. I am tech adjacent. I say that all the time. And that's good enough for me. But I lean on my tech peers and partners to give me more information and to get more education. But even being tech adjacent and having the curiosity about these technologies really has pushed me forward in my role.
I think both of you have said it perfectly. Being curious and being unafraid, or even moving when you feel afraid. And I have to admit this. When Black Women in AI first started, we have a partnership with an organization called Create Labs. And the founder of Create Labs is an ambassador for OpenAI. So we were one of the first organizations to get access to ChatGPT, but it was called GPT-3, I think, at that time. And I did not utilize it. I didn't understand it, and he trained us and everything, and he kept saying, Angel, it's easy. Whatever you want it to do, it'll do. And I was thinking, nothing does that. I don't know. My brain could not, it could not compute what he was saying to me. And so I said, okay. And I essentially left it on the shelf for about a year. And we knew that, I think at that time, 245,000 people had access to it. I think that was it. And so we were a part of that group. However, it did not click until it clicked. And I started using it, and I'm telling friends, I'm telling family, I'm telling everybody, listen to what this thing can do. Let me show you what it can do. Mm-hmm. And so with that technology and with Midjourney, which creates the images and all of these things, one of the main things that I want us to do is, of course, be curious, but even when you are afraid, even when you don't quite understand it, grab somebody and say, explain it to me. Because it's better to understand it and be curious about it and know about it than to sit it on the shelf like I did for an entire year. So again, be curious, and if you don't quite get it, ChatGPT will explain it to you.
Okay, so don't pause the podcast, but you can literally open ChatGPT right now and ask it to explain itself. And if you're confused by the answer you get, you can ask it to rephrase or even ask clarifying questions. Amanda has one.
Can you please educate people on ChatGPT gone wrong? Because I will just say, I can tell when someone writes me an email in ChatGPT. So this is just a public service announcement for those folks. Writing emails with ChatGPT and copying and pasting. Note, those of us who use it can tell.
That is not a good look.
Not a good look.
Not a good look. That is, one, because it's not going to sound like you. Two, there can be misinformation. Like I've had to, go back and double check some things. But using it as a thought partner and not a tool to just do your work is really important. Like just understanding how those things look. If I just type a question in, or say I need to write an email to, Amanda about this, and hit go and copy and paste, not only are there going to be formatting issues, which I've seen, when people do this, but the tone, it will just sound off. And so we need to learn how to, again, use it as a thought partner. Plug your thoughts in, see what it says, question it, refine it, edit it, then take that, copy into your own notes as a part of Amanda's PSA, and then edit some more and turn it into your own thoughts, your own work, make sure it makes sense, and then use it. As we talk about AI and the future of work, there's another angle that I have to bring into the conversation as a DEI practitioner. The future of work has to be inclusive. I've noticed in the Black community that there's sometimes a level of distrust in technology. Many people are hesitant to put their personal information and thoughts into AI platforms. These are valid concerns, and the only way to prepare people to use this technology is through education.
One of the things that we ask anyone who intends to partner with Black women in AI, we ask them to know the vision, and that is to educate, engage, embrace, and empower, to understand the vision, educate, engage, embrace, and empower Black women in AI, but also to trust the vision, to educate, engage, embrace, and empower Black women in AI. And I say that to say this: if what you're bringing to me as a potential partner does not align with our vision, then we can't be partners. If you're coming to me saying, hey, we want to do a coding session, we want to teach people to code in one day, we're going to turn that opportunity down. We're going to turn that opportunity down because we know you can't train anybody to code in one day, which means either you're attempting to make us a part of your press release or your photo op, one or the other. And we're not interested in terms of Black women in AI. We're not interested in that trend on Twitter. We're interested in making an impact in our community. And so when we talk about diversity, it has to be at the forefront of your organization, because if we're really talking about return on investment, if we're really talking about the bottom line, the fact is, and this has nothing to do with how I feel, the fact is, when diversity is in the room, your product gets better. When men are in the room, your product gets better. When women are in the room, your product gets better. When those of different abilities are in the room, your product gets better. And so when you understand that concept, you don't look at it as a referendum. You don't look at it as a political stance. You look at it, if we're looking at the bottom line, which most companies will say it's about the bottom line, what is our return on investment? Well, you want a better product, which can reap rewards in terms of finances and in terms of your investment. And so when we're talking about diversity and we want to bring more people to the table, I'm starting with the financial benefits, because I think that is the language that most companies and CEOs and those in positions of power are listening to.
For me, it's always been, yes, you need different points of view, but also when you work at a whatever types of company, the people in your company need to reflect the consumers that you serve. Period. End of story. Otherwise, how do you accurately get those voices of the consumer reflected? So when I think about our company, we serve all types of people, women predominantly. So I better have a lot of women on my team because we are in beauty and wellness. We serve a lot of Black women, certainly, in what we do with lashes and beauty. We're all into beauty. So all of those voices need to be reflected. And if I only have one type of person working for me, certainly, they can't reflect those experiences. I mean, I will say, and again, this is just personal experience, but the executive team and the CEO, I mean, they have to want and have a commitment to having a diverse team. And it's probably it might be a little bit harder to find these people. I know they're out there, but that's important to me for these business reasons, and I'm going to commit to doing that.
My takeaway from this episode is that preparing for the future of work requires curiosity and commitment. Curiosity. We're all still at work. So if new technology or processes come up for you, embrace them. Ask questions. You could be on the cutting edge of the next emerging trend. Commitment. The future of work will be diverse. And diversity is good for your business. It's good for your customers, and it's good for your people. Make a commitment, review it, measure it, let it evolve, and you and your business will thrive. Thank you all for joining me on this episode of Still at Work. And thanks to Angel for joining us, and to our listener who submitted a fantastic question. Do you have questions about how to navigate your workplace and everything that goes along with that? We can help. Go to the form in our show description to submit your question. While you're there, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, Still at Work, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also rate and leave our show a review to help others find us. That's it for today's episode. We'll see you soon. Views and opinions expressed during the podcast are those of the individuals expressing them and do not necessarily reflect those of Coursera or Human Group Media.